I was in love with Saqib, but my father forcefully arranged my engagement with my cousin Faraz, my uncle's son. I was completely against this marriage, yet my father presented it in such a calculated way that even I was left speechless. He said, "Your uncle and aunt have passed away, leaving behind a huge property. Faraz is an ignorant villager. He doesn't understand anything. You'll find the right time to get his thumbprint on the documents, and then I'll get you divorced. After that, I'll marry you off to whomever you want. Once you have money and property, every man will be eager to marry you." I was shocked. I had never imagined that my father would scheme like this, but I had no interest in wealth or property. His greed didn't bring me any closer to accepting Pharaoh's. All I wanted was a simple, happy life with Saqib. That was enough for me. I was also certain that Saqib would never marry a divorced woman. He was already so serious about me. I told him everything over the phone about my father's plan and urged him to send a proposal quickly and take me away before my father could force his decision on me. But Saqib's reaction stunned me. He said, "Your father isn't completely wrong. I have a small job. My family's financial situation isn't great. I want to give you all the happiness in the world, but if you really want all your dreams to come true, maybe you should go through with the marriage to Faraz. After your divorce, I'll marry you." His words hit me like a slap. I had expected him to be furious, to immediately talk about sending a proposal and planning a wedding, but instead he echoed my father's thoughts. I was in disbelief. I had never asked for luxuries. I never demanded a bungalow or a fancy car from Saqib. I was ready to live in his small house and share his hardships. Yet here he was, talking about unfulfilled dreams and unrealistic desires. When I didn't respond for a while, Saqib continued, "You need to be practical. In this world, you need money to live and to make your dreams come true. I have a large family to support. My salary runs the entire household. I have responsibilities towards my sisters, too. I won't be able to fulfill all your desires, but if you bring some wealth with you, our life will be easier. I'll be able to get my sisters married sooner. After that, it will just be you and me. We'll finally live a peaceful, free life." He kept talking, and I kept listening silently. Until today, he had never spoken like this, never mentioned how the burden of his sisters' marriages rested solely on his shoulders. And now, suddenly, he remembered every responsibility. He gave me permission. He told me I could marry my cousin Faraz. "Just make sure you never get close to him," he said. "He's a typical village fool. Give him sleeping pills every night, and once the property is under your name, get a divorce. That way, everything will be handled smoothly, and I won't have any issue with your marriage." Saqib had already crafted the entire plan, but the truth was I didn't want to be anyone else's wife. I truly loved Saqib. But when even Saqib himself had no objection to the plan, what could I say? With a heavy heart, I said yes to my father. He immediately invited Faraz over to discuss the proposal. Faraz was a typical village-type guy, always hovering around me. He'd come to our house for any excuse and brought me lots of gifts, but my heart never softened toward him. In fact, I didn't even like the gifts he brought, but I had no choice. He had a car, and whenever I needed to visit a friend, my father would only allow me to go with him. That's why I tried to keep my behavior with him somewhat normal, but never, not even once, had I considered marrying him. Faraz's parents lived in the village where they had large farmlands. He had come to the city for studies, but soon lost interest in education and started a business instead, which actually turned out to be successful. His parents had left behind hundreds of acres of land in his name. My father's eyes were on that property. As soon as I gave my consent, my father brought Faraz over and proposed the marriage. Faraz's face lit up with joy. Smiling, he said, "Uncle, I'd sacrifice anything for your command. I have no objection to marrying Fazila." Hearing this, I wanted to bash his head in, but I was helpless in front of my father. When my father insisted on a quick wedding, Faraz agreed without hesitation. Only a few relatives from the village were to be invited. Faraz gave my father 100,000 rupees and said, "Please use this to buy Fazila's wedding outfit. I'll handle everything else myself. I plan to set up our new home from scratch." My father, delighted, accepted the money. My bridal dress was bought with that money. It was beautiful and exactly how I had always imagined. But the tragedy was that I wasn't becoming a bride for Saqib, but for Faraz. and that broke my heart. I told myself that within a few days I'd have Faraz wrapped around my finger, get his thumbprint on the land documents, and then divorce him and come back. I even asked my father to prepare the paperwork because I couldn't live with Faraz for long. 2 days before the wedding, Faraz came to our house and asked my father for permission to take me somewhere. Without asking any questions, my father agreed. I didn't want to go anywhere with him, so I asked, surprised, "Where are you taking me?" But he didn't answer. I had no choice but to sit in his car. He drove me to the biggest jewelry store in the city and told me to choose my wedding gift. He seated me and kept gazing at me with love-filled eyes. His behavior was making my blood boil. To annoy him, I deliberately pointed at a diamond ring, the most expensive one, and said, "I want this." I thought he wouldn't be able to afford it, but to my utter shock, he happily bought it for me. My phone started ringing. It was Saqib. I glanced at Faraz, who was busy paying the bill, and stepped aside to tell Saqib that Faraz had taken me out to buy jewelry. Saqib replied, "Then don't settle for just a few things. Take as much as you can. It'll be useful later." His words stunned me. I didn't have that kind of greed. I had only picked the expensive ring out of anger. My intention was never to rob Faraz, but Saqib's tone made me pause. Following his suggestion, I started picking more and more items, and to my surprise, Faraz bought everything without complaint. Then he took me to a fancy hotel for dinner and respectfully dropped me back home. He hadn't held my hand, nor had he said anything romantic. Faraz, unlike Saqib, who would always grab my hand instinctively, try to be close to me and whisper sweet words. But Faraz didn't do any of that, and strangely, it brought me a sense of relief. I had been anxious thinking, what if Faraz tries to get close to me? What would I do? After giving me all the jewelry, Faraz respectfully dropped me back home. Then the wedding day finally arrived. When he showed up as the groom, I felt sick to my stomach. He was dressed entirely in village style, a garland of currency notes around his neck, thick kohl smeared beyond his eyes, and a bright red turban on his head. Though his fair complexion helped carry the look better than most, to me, he still looked like a complete villager. When my friends saw him, they couldn't stop laughing. "Saqib was a whole different level," they said. "You left him for this?" I sighed deeply and told them the truth, that I was marrying Faraz with Saqib's consent, and this marriage wouldn't last more than a few days. Once I got Faraz to transfer his property to my name, I'd divorce him and marry Saqib. My friends were shocked but also impressed. They praised my cleverness and joked, "You're going to finish this poor village boy. He won't even know what hit him." And we all laughed together. In reality, Faraz had no clue about my true intentions. Soon the nikah was completed and I left my parents' home as a bride. I had hidden some sleeping pills in my purse, planning to use them at the right moment. I thought once I got Faraz to take the pills, managing this marriage would become easier. When I reached his house, I was stunned. I hadn't been there in a long time since Faraz lived alone, and I'd never had a reason to visit. But it wasn't just a house. It was a luxurious mansion. On every wall were giant portraits of me. Everywhere I looked, there I was. A maid guided me to my room, and as I looked around, I was astonished to see that everything in the room reflected my exact preferences. Faraz had paid attention to even the smallest details. He knew my likes and dislikes so well and had decorated the room accordingly. It truly felt like a dream, but only if my prince were Saqib, not Faraz. To me, this entire setting felt temporary, unreal. After a while, Faraz entered the room smiling. He handed me a gift for the wedding night and then softly said, "I have transferred this entire mansion in your name. Consider it your dowry." I was completely shocked. The thing I had planned to manipulate out of him, he had given me willingly. Somehow, Faraz always knew what I was thinking, as if he could read my heart before I even spoke. For a while, he kept expressing his love. He said this was the first happiness he had felt since the passing of his parents. He spoke with such sincerity, but I listened half-heartedly, detached. When I told him I was feeling tired, he smiled and said, "Change into something comfortable. I'll ask the maid to bring some milk." Hearing that gave me relief. I had already planned to mix the sleeping pills into his glass. I got up to change, and when I returned, 2 glasses of milk were already placed in the room. Faraz had gone to freshen up. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I quickly took out the sleeping pills and mixed them into Faraz's glass of milk. Then I sat quietly, watching, waiting for him to drink it and fall asleep. Every passing second of that night felt like a burden on my chest. Soon Faraz returned, freshly showered, and picked up the glass. He sipped the milk slowly, and with each gulp, a wave of relief washed over me. I was certain that within minutes, he would fall into a deep sleep. But instead of becoming drowsy, something strange began to happen. Faraz didn't become sleepy. He became unhinged. His behavior shifted completely, and what he did next sent shivers down my spine. He came close to me, suddenly and without restraint, and began to tug at my clothes. I tried to stop him. I really did. But he was completely out of control, lost in a trance. Whatever had happened to him after drinking that milk had stripped him of all awareness. I tried to push him away, but I failed. And that night, he used me. In every way, repeatedly. As if I was just an object. I could do nothing to stop him. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I kept remembering Saqib's strict warning. Never let Faraz touch you. Keep giving him the pills, stay distant until our plan works. But Faraz had completely overpowered me. I had given him the sleeping pills that Saqib himself had provided. I still couldn't understand. Why hadn't they worked? Why had they done the opposite? Only after using me entirely did Faraz fall into a deep sleep. By morning, when he woke up, I was sitting silently in the corner of the bed, my eyes swollen with tears. Seeing me cry, he asked, confused, "Fazila, what happened? Why are you crying?" His question made my blood boil. "Do you even know what you've done to me? You violated me like an animal," I said through gritted teeth. But he simply shook his head, as if he truly didn't know. That was when I snapped. "You treated me like a beast," I shouted. He looked at me, smiled faintly, and said calmly, "You are my wife. I only claimed my right, that's all." Then he added coldly, "Now do one small thing. Call your beloved Saqib. Tell him what happened last night. Tell him I've already taken you. Let's see if he still wants you. Let's see how deep his love really goes." I froze. Faraz sat up and continued, "I know exactly why you married me. I overheard you and your friends. Every word. I knew long before the wedding that there was someone else in your life. And when I dug deeper, I found out about Saqib." He paused, his voice steady. "I investigated him because I thought if he turned out to be a good man, I would step away. I'd hand you over to him, let you go willingly. But what I discovered shocked me. Saqib is a selfish, greedy man. A manipulator. That's when I decided, I'm not letting you go. I'll take you by force if I must, because once I do, he'll never want you again." His words left me stunned. Then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Think about it. A man who's willing to hand over the woman he claims to love just for money, can he ever be trusted? If today he gave you to me for the sake of property, what makes you think he won't do the same tomorrow, even after marrying you? Do you realize what a man like that is capable of when money is involved?" Hearing Faraz's words made my blood boil. I stood up from the bed and shouted, "You're wrong about Saqib. He's not like that at all." Faraz calmly replied, "Fine, then call him. Put the phone on speaker and tell him this, that I've already been with you, that I'm divorcing you, and that you have neither money nor any claim over my property. Let's see what he says then." His words shook me to my core. Somewhere deep down, I had begun to sense the truth. That perhaps Saqib's real interest was in Faraz's wealth. Maybe that was why he pushed me into this marriage. But still, I wanted to believe in Saqib's love. I wanted to hold on to the hope that he loved me for who I was. So I called him and repeated everything Faraz had asked me to say. I believed that even after hearing all this, Saqib would still accept me, but the words he spoke next shattered me. "I can't marry a girl like you," he said coldly. You've already spent the night with another man, and now you want to come back to me with nothing? If at least you had brought some money, maybe I would have considered it. But I won't marry a penniless girl. I never really intended to marry you. It was only your promise of Faraz's property that made me agree. Now that's off the table. There's no reason left. Don't ever call me again." With that, he hung up. My heart stopped. Tears streamed down my face as everything around me blurred. Faraz quietly walked up to me, pulled me into his arms, and said gently, "I know you see me as backward, uneducated. You think I'm just a foolish villager. But I swear to you, my love for you is sincere. I may not be polished like Saqib, but my heart is clean, and it only beats for you. If you wish, I'll set you free. I'll transfer all my property to your name. But remember, no one will ever love you like I do." At that moment, I broke down in his arms. He was my husband, my rightful partner. Even after learning the whole truth, he didn't abandon me. He didn't mock me. Instead, he held up a mirror and revealed Saqib's reality. He showed me what real love looks like. And that was a gift. I looked into his eyes and said, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you." His face lit up with joy. Then he revealed something that left me speechless. He had known all along that I would try to drug him. The night of our wedding, while I was away changing, he had secretly replaced the sleeping pills in my bag with performance enhancers. That's why the pills had the opposite effect. Even knowing all this, he had never taunted me. Not once did he shame me or say anything that would make it hard for me to look him in the eye. All he did was love me deeply and selflessly. And in doing so, he proved that when love is true, it forgives everything. In the days that followed, he poured his love over me in such a way that I was left speechless. He didn't just love me, he respected me, valued me. And isn't that what every woman truly wants? Eventually, I told my father clearly that I was happy with Faraz and had no intention of leaving him. My father had only arranged this marriage because he was suffering losses in his business and saw Faraz's land as a way out. But when I told Faraz the truth, he didn't get angry. Instead, he helped my father rebuild his business. My father was filled with shame. He had tried to use his own nephew, but Faraz, a man of incredible character, forgave everything without saying a word, and life moved forward. Now, when I look back, I often feel ashamed that I once chose someone like Saqib over a man like Faraz. Even if I had ended up marrying him, I know now, once he had gotten his hands on Faraz's wealth, he would have thrown me out of his life without a second thought. To every sister and daughter listening to my story, I say this with a heavy heart. Not every person is worthy of your love. Not everyone deserves your trust. Be careful who you let into your life. Think deeply before placing your faith in someone, because if you're not careful, you might suffer the same heartbreak that I endured through Saqib.